Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of our Station One. That's right, folks. We're back. And we're going back to the Star Wars universe. That's right. A long time ago. And a new galaxy far, far away. It's going to be awesome. We've got a great crew to talk all about Ahsoka. It's going to be fun because they've been building for towards this for quite some time. And it's got a great crew on board the show, and it has a great crew to talk about it tonight. Let's welcome, of course, back to the show after a long time, Tyra Burton's back.
Hi, how is everybody? I bring my dog Davi, who I hope will be a good co-person with me.
Is he your Padawan tonight?
He's my Padawan for sure.
Maybe if you use the ways of the Force on him, he will be quite, successful.
I know. I left Leia Kitty outside. Perhaps she would have been more appropriate to bring.
Very possible. Very, very possible. And returning also back to the show, Rosemary Jean-Louis. Did I say it right?
Almost. It's Jean-Louis, but that's
Jean-Louis.
all right.
So close, but yet
so close.
Far. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back. I'm coming back straight from one day of New York Comic Con, where I learned the best way to make tea from Ewan McGregor.
Really?
Wow.
That's what I did.
We've got to hear about this.
I am so jelly.
That is awesome. New York Comic Con's always been on my bucket list of places to go. And, I've always wanted to go up to Manhattan to be able to do it. Maybe next year. Fingers crossed. But
fingers crossed for you. Thank you.
Back. And of course, the Jedi Master himself, Mr. Mike Gordon, is here.
Howdy.
Yeah. So are you ready for a lot of fun tonight to talk about this? Did we like it? Did we not? I've heard both sides of the fence, and some people are complaining because some folks haven't seen Rebels at all. And a lot of the character references on this went right over people's heads and such.
Wait. Are you telling me that people are complaining about a Star Wars show?
I'm shocked.
Are you saying that it's divisive on the net? Is that what you're saying?
I'm totally shocked.
I am stunned.
Have you met our fans?
I know. Exactly. Exactly. And folks, we are going to spoil the hell out of this one. So if you haven't watched it yet, please take a break, put us on pause. And you know what? We'll be here and waiting because we got tons to talk about tonight. So Mr. Mike, take it away.
Yeah, let's get to it. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack here with this show that, as Mike said, has been a long time in the making. The character first appeared, I think, in 2008. So it's been quite some time since Ahsoka's got her own series and in the spotlight like this. Let's find out what everybody's association is with the show before we sort of dive deep, so to speak. Rosemary, let's start with you. What was your expectations in this? What was did you know Ahsoka before this show, and how well did you were you familiar with the character?
Sure. I did know a little bit about Ahsoka before the show, so I had watched a little bit of the Clone Wars, so I knew her as that young, rebellious Spitfire kid, kind of annoying initially.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. Then she blossomed a little bit or matured a little bit in Rebels. Now, I didn't see all of Rebels. I've only seen a season and a half, but I loved it, what I saw. And then, of course, I saw her as a live action version in The Mandalorian, which I loved with the casting of Rosario Dawson because it was fan casting. And I thought just from how she portrayed it and that one episode of The Mandalorian that her still take on Ahsoka was interesting and intriguing to me. So I went into watching this series kind of intrigued and going, oh boy, let's see what she does with this and let's see what they do. Anyway, let me stop there. Let me stop. Let me let somebody else go and we'll continue the discussion.
Yes, absolutely. Tyra, what about you? What was your past history with Ahsoka?
So I still have not seen the third prequel movie, by the way, all the way through. I refused to watch all of it because of events, but I started watching Clone Wars about 2 or 3 years ago and fell in love with it. I love Clone Wars. It's probably my favorite set of Star Wars property that's out there. And part of that is the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka, and how they portray that Padawan master relationship. So I loved how they had her grow up. She was very annoying, I agree, in the first episodes. But by the end, she really was kind of like the philosophical center of the problem with the Jedi. And I've seen all of Rebels. I have vague memories of some of it, but I will say that I think it's made, having watched it, made Ahsoka better. So I adore her. When I saw her live action, I literally cried because I was like, finally, this very powerful woman is finally in front of our face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Mike, what about you? Because I know you have some experience with Clone Wars as well, and Rebels.
Of course. Oh, very much so. I watched, Ahsoka and from the very first Clone Wars movie that they did. And I remember being at Dragon Con and Dave Filoni was there, and he was talking about, that they were doing a Clone Wars cartoon and starting with the movie and going forward. And like everybody else, you saw Ahsoka grow and become more mature and become almost a Jedi master, but before she quit the Jedi Order. And it was neat to see, and then to see her grow even more as a leader in the rebellion. And it was awesome to see. And I was there all the way through Clone Wars. I was there all the way through Rebels. And so I knew all the characters who were going to be featured in the series. And then Rosario was awesome in Mandalorian. And it was neat how they were setting it up. And they, started hinting at what was to come with her series, even in Mandalorian. So a lot of people, were bitching and moaning because they didn't have a clue who some of the rebels were and such. And, there's a universe out there. There's characters out there. And we already had seen Zeb in Mandalorian last season. So it was like only natural that we got to see the characters and everything in this. And so I was on board for this, and I was excited to what we were going to get. They had some downs, but they had a lot of ups, and it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to talk all about this together tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, I'm with you, Mike. I was right there, saw the Clone Wars movie when it premiered on the screen, and found Snips to be very annoying. And and thought, oh my goodness, what is this? And then as you start watching Rebels and get to know her better, and by the end, I mean, it's really her story. I mean, there's a lot of side missions and side episodes with other characters, but it pretty much begins with her and her association with Anakin, and it ends with her and what happens in the events of Revenge of the what's the third one called?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, right. Revenge of the Sith. Right. So and then Rebels. It was interesting because Rebels started the same way for me. The first episode or so, I was like, man, this is really maybe just for kids or whatever. But then I continued to watch, and it got deeper. And then Ahsoka appears, I think, in like the second or third season. And when she joins, it really just clicks. And there are some episodes of that series that I would put up against anything, Star Wars or not, like just amazing. The two-parter where she, that involves her and Darth Maul and Darth Vader. And I mean, it's just incredible. Plus all the stuff that she does with the Mandalorians and on that planet and everything like that on Mandalore. Ahsoka is a rich character that Dave Filoni created with the help of George Lucas. It was only a matter of time before she got to live action. I was very excited to see her in The Mandalorian, as you guys were as well. And I was very, very super excited that she was going to get her own series. And we were going to get, because as the news came out, it was obvious that we were going to get more characters from Rebels as well, including one of my favorite extended universe characters of all time, which is Thrawn. And this was the thing, movie wise, TV wise, whatever wise, that I was most anticipating for the entire year. Like, this was the big thing. So it had a lot of big boots to fill. And as Mike said, some of it was good. Some of it was okay. I don't know if anything was bad, but we'll kind of dissect it a bit more. But I'm satisfied that enough that this is a good start. I don't think anything damage was done, but I do feel like that for people who weren't familiar with the characters, that they did feel a little left out. I don't know if the series did enough to kind of booster that, but because that's a lot to watch. Like, if you're asking someone to watch all of Rebels, all of Clone Wars, that's like a lot of that time to spend. Now, I think it's worth it. I think those series are both really excellent, and someone, like I said, some of the best Star Wars is out there. That's a lot to unpack. But let's go back and get your overall impressions of the series. Satisfying, not satisfying, et cetera, et cetera. We'll start with you again, Rosemary.
Sure. So for me, it wasn't satisfying because I felt that it missed out on its potential. To me, the premise of the show was really, what's Ahsoka like when she's older, right? There's the great line when she's in the dream world and she's talking to Anakin, and he says, "Oh, you look old." And at that point, to me, it was like, oh, wow, yeah, that's probably the heart of the show. What is she like? How has she evolved? I felt, unfortunately, that Rosario did not build upon her still and Zen performance from The Mandalorian, and that Zen performance just couldn't carry a show for me. Maybe it's also how Dave Filoni wrote the character, that she should be so still and zen. But after a while, I mean, I feel bad that sometimes I was like falling asleep because it was just kind of like an ASMR kind of video almost, because it was so zen and relaxing how she performed. I think where the show really shined was when they had the Jedi fights, the fight scenes. The choreography was pretty amazing. Definitely the characters that stood out for me was Baylan Skoll, R.I.P. to poor Ray Stevenson. He was amazing. What a presence. Really wanted to know what was going on more with him. Also the appearance of Thrawn. I mean, that guy, certainly, I didn't get to see him in the cartoon because I didn't get that far, but he definitely lived up to his hype and just brought that character to life from the cartoon as a live action person, kind of like that menacing but efficient corporate, restructuring person who comes in and is going to change everything for the worst that you're scared of. But he did it with such cool efficiency. It was amazing. I also wanted to see, and I thought, again, the missed potential was that relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine. If that's the story that they're picking up from Rebels, then I felt the two of them didn't have a lot of chemistry together, and they didn't put them together enough to build upon that and help us understand where they were going with Sabine's growth and her learning. Why was she even mad? And circling back to the folks who didn't get to see either all of Rebels or all of the Clone Wars, unfortunately, folks like me, who I fall into that category, sometimes I was distracted because I was going with the different plot points going, wait, Kanan's dead? Did what? Did you say he died? What? Ezra's missing? What did you say he's missing? And then you're distracted by some of these plot points, unfortunately. So I think it's an interesting setup to what's to come with the movies, but I felt that plot wise and character development wise, they miss some potential to do a better job.
What I told a couple people, actually, this might have helped you also, is watch the final episode of Rebels to, find out how the characters ended up where they did. Because there's a lot of references to that final episode in here. So it was pretty, understandable what you're saying though, and everything.
Yeah. I mean, and there's also, and it's interesting because there's a lot of people that I that assume that just because, those of us who have seen Rebels and those of us who have seen Clone Wars beforehand are completely caught up with this character, but we haven't seen Ahsoka for, outside of her appearance in Mandalorian, and she also has a brief appearance in Boba Fett as well. That we don't. For us, it was completely new information that Ahsoka and Sabine were Padawan and Master Apprentice, that kind of thing. Like we didn't know they had that kind of relationship. We didn't know what happened with them, the split up and everything like that. So there was a lot of things that we didn't know as well. But yes, there were a lot of. I think the show could have done a little bit more exposition wise to explain things a little bit better to people who didn't know, and really, if this is a series that's supposed to introduce Ahsoka and Thrawn as being like the two big characters of Star Wars that everybody's going to really gravitate towards, I don't know that the series really did a great job in selling everybody on those two in particular characters, because I don't know if the best of them is in this series, but I do think it was a nice introduction, but we'll see if hopefully we get more. Tyra, what about you? What are your thoughts overall about the series?
Overall, I think we needed that 3-minute introduction that told us everything we needed to know. I think that's out of everything, that's the biggest mistake for me, is that we needed a place to set us in time and space. We needed that soliloquy at the start of a Shakespeare play that tells us where we are.
And what's ironic is that we did, for the first time since Star Wars has been on TV, we did get an opening crawl.
I know, but not enough.
It wasn't enough, but it's like we did get a crawl for the first time ever, and it's like, okay, but we still don't have the information we need.
They misused it. They needed to add some more graphs and pages.
We needed plot points, but
right.
I actually loved what they did with Ahsoka. I thought that my husband and I had talked about how stiff she was to begin with, and then after her and Anakin came back together, and Hayden Christian, I can't say enough how much I am loving him having this moment. But their fight, and I watched that episode 3 times. I loved it so much because at the end, when she has done the Gandalf and the Grey and turned into the white Ahsoka, her whole demeanor changes. And the episodes after that, she's smiling and she's looser and she's in a different place. So to me, there was a huge character change with their fight. Like she found peace with the fact that she wasn't responsible for Anakin becoming Darth Vader, that there's still Anakin, her master, out there. And so for me, that was huge. What I didn't like was I really felt like they didn't make Sabine as much of the fighter that she was. Like she capitulated so easily into giving them the direction. And I didn't think that was in character at all. I think they could have found a better way to get them there rather than trying to make her less than. And I also thought that her ability to use the Force in the last episode was like a huge jump. Like I was really proud and pleased that she had it, but it's like a huge jump from where she started at the beginning to where she was at the end. And
quite a pun there too, by the way.
That is, yes. Unintentionally funny.
Yeah, there you go.
But in there, like Ahsoka said something about, have you been practicing? Have you kept up your training? And I was like, I never had the concept of how long it took from when she arrived there to when Ahsoka got there. What was the time frame for that? Because if she was keeping up with her training, it wasn't just a couple of days.
No.
So, but I Thrawn on the screen. Oh my gosh. I remember him from the Timothy Zahn books, which I always suggest people read because they're the first trilogy is just amazing. But I thought he did a really good job of portraying the fact that he is this intellectual leader. I thought they had him cued really well. And the sisters, the sisters,
Oh, yeah.
they were
Sisters were
amazing
awesome to
to see. So overall, I was really, really pleased with it. I loved the fights. Seeing the three of them fight together was just amazing. And it was seeing what a big role that David Tennant got. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And that
That
was
was
a nice
David
surprise.
Tennant. No, just kidding.
So I was overall really, really pleased. So
Mike, what about you? How did you feel?
It was interesting because I'm agreeing with both what the ladies are saying. And it's interesting too, because Rosario does a great, great job as Ahsoka. And it would have been great to see, you know, Ashley as, you know, Ahsoka still, but she doesn't look the role. That's the problem and everything. And they did a great, great job with Rosario. And it was neat to see the Rebels characters come to life. It was neat, even, you know, at the very beginning, you know, you had, you know, some of the characters who you only saw in as, you know, in the cartoons and everything, you know, and it was neat to see the little nods. Even Clancy Brown you got in it, and playing the same character he played in Rebels. So it was neat to see that kind of stuff. It was neat to see the space whales. It was great, you know, which was gorgeous, because you also got the hint of them again in Mandalorian. And so it was neat to see that. And for me, I loved the Dark Jedi in this. They were awesome because they were not Sith. That's the thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. You know, they are not Sith. And it was awesome. You know, Shin was awesome. I thought she was totally badass. And, you know, and then Balin was amazing and everything, because he was fighting for honor, but he was also not, the mustache twirling villain and everything. He had his own goals, which he was going for, which I liked. The one character, and I have to agree with Tyra, oh my God, I was so getting annoyed with Sabine. There was multiple times even Judy says, "Can I bitch slap her?" And everything.
It's true.
Yes, they said that at New York Comic Con. I was on the line and they said that.
And it was like, I liked the actress who played her. That I had no problem with. Just how they wrote the character and everything. And that was, for me, it was the hard part. And I liked seeing, different aspects of Ahsoka, because you saw her even as a little kid, as a newbie, Jedi or a Padawan, and in this, and the scenes in the Dream Zone, or whatever you want to call it, was amazing. And especially when you saw like Anakin walking away and they did the flashes and he was Vader and then back to Anakin. That was just so good cinematography and great storyline. Seeing the sisters was great. Seeing, it was good to see who you did. I didn't mind Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera and everything. I thought that was pretty good. I still want to know why she wears goggles. So, that's the thing. She's a starship captain. Come on, she's not a World War I flying ace, type thing. But it's always fun with that. And I did have a good, Ezra was even great. I love the actor they got for Ezra. So, and then to see a live action Chopper again, it was just, also a plus. And, there was so much I enjoyed. And then Thrawn. And it was awesome when, he found out that Ahsoka was, Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. He was like, oh crap, that type of look on his face, because he feared Anakin Skywalker. And that's from the Clone Wars, that's from the books. And it's also, just, if he had a nemesis, it was always Anakin and everything. But he also respected Vader at the same time, which is very interesting. So it was a neat thing to do. But yeah, it was good. And then we got Anthony Daniels as C-3PO,
Yeah, that was
Lord. Random.
Well, you know
We'll
what?
take it.
It worked. You
It
might
was your
like,
workaround.
yeah, exactly. It's like a little nod to fans. It's like, but yeah, I loved it. And there was a lot of fun in this, but I was like, don't end it here. Don't end it here. I wanted at least 2 more episodes, type thing. And that was one of my feelings with it.
We got it's amazing to me that we got as much characters and references to past Star Wars, obviously Clone Wars, Rebels. There's a character in there that shows up in Star Wars Resistance, the senator there, and it's often the stuff about the witches, the Night Sisters, and the potential of what this could mean. Also, I mean, there's a episode of Clone Wars. It's this really bizarre episode about the unknown region and these beings that are like godlike beings, and there's this implication that that they're going to be part of whatever's going to go on moving forward as well. So there's a lot of like to unpack here. And in a way it's sort of like this is almost like I don't want to say a prequel series, but it seems like it's almost all set up for big things to come. Like there's not the story here for Ahsoka is that yes, she starts off, she's broken, she's managing, she's doing the best she can, like, et cetera. She's trying to make her difference, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know a lot about her, but she's obviously older. I mean, this is someone who grew up she was growing up in the Clone Wars, and here it is well past that. And it's been, I think, since the events of Return of the Jedi, we're talking about what, 10 years at least, 12 or something, right? Something like that. Yeah. So she's older. We know since we've seen her in Rebels that she's been through a lot. She's actually faced off against Darth Vader before. And she had to come to terms with who Darth Vader was. And we find that she still hasn't come to terms with that, which is interesting. The addition of Hulang in this is really amazing. David Tennant does a great job voicing that droid. And that's a character also that was in Clone Wars. Popping up here was a nice surprise. And I think it was a great use of him in this as well. I liked all of the characters, the casting wise that they chose. It's difficult to do. Not a lot of characters that were in the cartoon get to follow up, or actors who played these characters get to follow up and do the same thing in the live action. Like Clancy Brown does, Lars Nicholson does, and I think the guy who voices have is actually the same voice, but he's not in this. He's only mentioned. But I did think that the casting for Sabine, for Hera, was spot on. I did appreciate that a lot. The new addition of Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, like Rosemary, you said it, but as that first episode where Ray Stevenson, comes off of the shuttle, it's like there's a presence there that it's palpable. You can feel, and he carries it through the entire series. I've seen Ray Stevenson in other things. This is the first time I went, holy crap, he's amazing. Like, he's just perfect in this. I want more of him. And of course, we won't be able to get that because he passed away, unfortunately. And it looks like, I mean, God help us. I hope they don't do the CG thing with him but you have to recast him, and that's going to suck.
You do.
Like,
yeah.
So we don't know what his storyline was going to be. We have no idea. And so that's an interesting idea, but man, was he really, really great in this. And everybody he worked opposite just got better when he worked with them. Like the scenes with him and Ahsoka were amazing. The scenes with him, like he was just a great presence. And I think he was like the real standout as far as the new characters for me. And it did kind of throw you off because like, it set it up as him being the bad guy, maybe, and then and then Thrawn comes in, and then we don't really expect that see, I'm blanking on her name again.
Shin.
Shin?
No, sorry. Morgan.
Morgan.
Morgan,
the witch.
we don't, Ahsoka gets a rematch against Morgan, which she faced off against her in
Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed kind of out of the blue. I mean, if you hadn't seen, like, it just seemed like all of a sudden, like, they're the ones who are facing off at the final episode, and you're like, oh, that's okay. I mean, Diana Lee can fight, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a great fight, but it seems just to come out of nowhere. And there's a lot of things like that. The casting of Ezra was amazing. I'm kind of all over the place rambling because there's a lot of things going on here, because a lot of it's good, a lot of it was really good, and a lot of it was like it seems like it leaves it too open and ended a little bit, and I don't know where they're going to go with this, and I hope they get a chance to. What's something else about the show, Rosemary, that you wanted to point out that maybe that didn't work for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, the casting of Hera, I mean, I know there's a consensus in this panel that everyone liked Mary Winstead, Elizabeth Winstead. I felt just from my exposure watching Rebels of how that character, it's tough, right? It's tough going from watching, again, the cartoon, and you're seeing the portrayal from those voice actors and then seeing the live action new version. So I felt the voice actor for Hera was a lot warmer and a lot of more of the mother hen type versus Mary's version, who was a bit more hands off. So that I every time I watched her, I was like, give me a little bit more, give me some warmth here, please. So I was having a little trouble with her. The other big trouble I was having was with the New Republic, with, first of all, do we care? I mean, I was like, do I really want to care about them and their opinion and how they might ground her? Do we need that in here? And then I also felt bad that basically this is what all these folks died for, to kick the Empire out. And now they have these, pencil pushers who are not doing a very good job of paying attention to what villain might resurface and cause trouble. And
I'm not disagreeing at all with you.
Sure.
But they've been pushing that all throughout Mandalorian, and that the New Republic is basically sitting on their hands, and they've already become self-confident. Oh, the Empire, it's just like little pockets. There's nothing
right. Not organized, right.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things that Dave Feloni has taken it upon himself to do is to fill in gaps. With Clone Wars, he wanted to fill in the gap between the of the prequel movies, the second and third movie, and then with Rebels and with Bad Batch, he's working on filling the gap between the Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and with Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and now Ahsoka, what he's trying to do is fill in the gap between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. So there's a lot of questions as far as how did the Republic get this way? Why is it that an Empire comes? I think it was one of the best scenes for me, and one of the best lines that Ray Stevenson had was when he was talking about how just cyclical it all was. Like, you get
That
an
was a good
empire
one.
startup and then rebellion and then an empire, like, and then it's back. It's all this. It's a rotating thing. And it's like I wanted to tell him. I was like, yeah, well, you haven't seen Force Awakens yet, but it's about to get really repetitive. Like it's really like that cycle is about to continue
That's
even more so,
awesome.
man.
And not
Because
in a
he's
good
seen
way.
it. It's kind of like this meta commentary on like how this just keeps happening over and over and over again, and it needs to stop. And that's why I'm kind of really interested to see where he goes from here, because he's trying to stop this cycle, and what he has in mind to do that. But and I think that's why we saw with Mandalorian, they were making more cases instead of just having the missions of Mando and Grogu and all of that. It's like, no, we're going to tell a bigger story here. We're going to show the Republic and how it's not working, and why, and the rise of the New Order. We're going to see these other Imperial guys take power for a little while, and then et cetera, et cetera. So I think that that's going to be a big part of every series going forward, because I think they want to fill in those gaps.
I think
That's
what he does
understandable.
really, really well is show characters' pain. I think it happened in Obi-Wan, it happens in Mandalorian, it happens here, where he's not afraid to show a broken character that we're used to being, have their stuff together. Like with Obi-Wan, he was definitely broken. Ahsoka was broken, even if you couldn't readily see it as much as you could with Obi-Wan. And just, he does an amazing job with that. And the thing that I loved about this series was how many powerful women were driving this story. And I love that about Star Wars, because so much of Star Wars was male characters driving it, and to have so much that are female characters that are leaders, that are powerful, that have flaws, is just beautiful. So I'm loving that, both in Mandalorian with Bo-Katan and with this, with all the women that are in it.
Yeah, you're here.
I mean, I can't wait to see what they do with Shen. I mean, I think that's going to be an interesting story arc, because where does she go?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Tara, is there something else about the series that didn't maybe work for you as well?
Sometimes the pacing wasn't as good as I thought it could be. Sometimes it was a little rough and slow at times. And I wasn't quite sure, like the same thing with Hera. I wanted a little more maternal instinct, particularly, I mean, Chopper is a murderer, let's be honest, but
straight up psycho murderer.
Wow.
Straight up, that robot.
Yeah.
That droid is there. He's going to take care of that child, but she does leave him on a cliff with, just a droid to protect him.
Thank you.
But on the other hand, she trusted him and what he could do, which is an amazing thing to give a child, to give them the ability to say, okay, I believe in you. I believe in what you're trying to tell me. Let's go and find out what it is. So that's very powerful. I think the other thing that really struck me was realizing how young Ahsoka was in Clone Wars. It's just heartbreaking to realize how incredibly she was a child. Been out to be a general and to lead men into battle. And I thought they did a really good job of portraying it. It was one thing I just totally did not expect to come away from it going, okay, I gotta go back and watch Clone Wars now that I realize, you realize how young Snips is, but geez, she was young.
Yeah, it's one thing for her to be like in a cartoon form, but then when you see her live action, you realize exactly just how young she is being placed in that situation. It's like, man, the Jedi are messed up.
Yeah, no, totally there. I did love seeing Rex, though. If I have to, the little nod to Rex was wonderful. And I love that.
Awesome to see him again.
Oh my God, he's one of my favorite characters from Clone Wars. And I agree with Mike. In that dream sequence, looking at the cinematography of how they light Hayden in light and dark all the time, it's always the two shades on him, is amazing to me. I guess I need to find much more to complain about, though.
No, absolutely.
I had a good ride. I just wish it was a little bit faster.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Filoni's direction or whatever, but it does seem like there were scenes where I was listening to a podcast and they were replaying some of the scenes between Ahsoka and Sabine, where they were just talking, and
Yeah.
it's like somebody says something, and then you like wait, and you count to like I don't know, like 20,
Thank you.
and then someone else
Pregnant
says
pause.
something, and
Right.
you're like. And I'm like, I didn't really notice this when I was watching it as much, but boy, when you're just listening to it, it's like it just feels like it just feels really slow.
Pacing was off. Really, it was not consistent, and that was part of the problem.
It could be,
I agree.
yeah. Like I said, I didn't notice it as much when I was watching it because their faces are more interesting and they're actually doing things, but when you just listen to the dialogue, it is it does go at a pretty weird pace. But I will say, yes, as you pointed out, Tyra, it does pick up after the episode with World Between Worlds. Like it does pick up because she does go through. You do see a noticeable difference, I think. And maybe it's not that noticeable for people who don't know her. But
We
I
get
did.
snips back.
Yes, I felt like that too. Yeah. And so the shot at the end, the very final shot where, she sees Anakin there, and it's the ghost Anakin, right? It's ghost Anakin,
Right.
Force ghost Anakin. Yeah, that is pretty moving.
Mhm.
I thought
I'm tearing up right
music-
now thinking about it.
the music was
Aw.
incredible in
It's
this
okay,
series.
Tyra.
I did think that the music was amazing. A lot of times when you get to the end of the episode and it starts with the credits or whatever, you just kind of go, okay, I'm done. But man, I just love listening to the music, the way the credits were rolling out, the graphics of the sort of star map that was playing out. Like I just thought that was so beautiful. I watched that every single time. I thought it was really good. And I think they changed the music in the last episode. It was a lot more like fuller orchestra and more powerful. So I don't know if they gave the only one thing I didn't really notice if they gave Thrawn his own theme, because I would have really appreciated that, but I don't really, nothing really stuck out as far as that goes. But anything else you wanted to point out, Mike, good or bad?
No, overall, I think it was real interesting. And I want to talk real quick about the relationship between the Jedi and the Padawan. And I'm not talking about Anakin and Ahsoka. It was interesting when you had, Balin and Shin, you could tell they're coming from two different points and everything. You could see how it was real easy that Shin actually could very easily go to the dark side, and she could become a Sith and everything. She wanted the power. She wanted to, just kill and destroy anything that came across her. And she, the only reason she was working with Thawne was because she could thinking that Thawne can bring her power and everything. And literally Thawne even turned against her and left the Jedi behind. And it was just real interesting. And even, it was just interesting when Balin said, this is all I can do. This is where you're not a Padawan any longer. You're on your own, and I have my path, you have your path. And it was just real interesting with that. And you saw that, them grow out of that and everything. And it was real interesting to see, because at first there were three of them. If you remember, there was it was either a force ghost or an animated being that was using an inquisitor or something that had the Jedi, the other lightsaber and stuff. They were all fighting together, and Ahsoka took him out fairly early in the series. And it was just real interesting. It was a neat experience and everything to see that. And it was also really cool to see the three sides of the Force, the three characters. You saw the father, who was, had the good and the bad, the son who was the dark side, and the daughter who was the good. You saw them in the Clone Wars. It was interesting because you learned about them then, and they also were part of Rebels. So you got that, and that's them having the statues on the planet and everything. And then you saw the bird at the very end who was, with Ahsoka. That's, that's almost like Ahsoka's guardian angel. So it's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah,
that's a hint.
So many like Tolkien references in this. Like you can tell Feloni's like a huge fan of Tolkien. But yeah, I do think that when it boils down to it, a lot of the relationships that Ahsoka explores are very much like, the master and apprentice, whether it's Ahsoka and Sabine, whether it's Ahsoka and Anakin, whether it's Balin and Shin, whether it's Ezra and Kanan. There's a lot of like relationships there that are kind of interesting to look at and compare. No two seem to be alike.
Mm-mm.
You just brought back up Ezra, and I just want to say his costuming with the stormtrooper tags as his shirt was amazing. And his befriending of the little turtle people, who I swore if Feloni killed, I was never going to watch Star Wars again. I was like, you cannot kill the cute little turtle
that
people.
wasn't
I'm
going
sorry.
to happen.
It's like killing an Ewok. We do not get over this very easily. But I loved how he also showed a different side of the Force, because when he doesn't take the lightsaber from Sabine, but yet is still using the Force to fight, and how he's adapted without it, that it is just a tool. It's not really what makes you a Jedi or a Force wielder. It's how you can manipulate that without it.
But I have to say, when he did pick up that lightsaber, come on, were you not cheering? I was like, yes, finally. Oh my goodness, that was so amazing to see him do that.
Well, and when
the three of them were going up against the zombie troopers.
Right.
We got zombies.
Who would have thought we got zombies? Right. Whoa.
They just keep coming. But when Tennant's character, who I can't remember the droid's name, when he hands him the other one of, I was like, oh, okay. So many great references, so many connections.
Absolutely. All right. So let's finish off with just letting let everybody know what you're looking forward to next. Like, where do we go from here? Where do you want the Star Wars franchise to go from here? Because it's right now, it's up in the air. I don't know. There's a lot of like rumors and announcements made about what's coming next, but then they're canceled, and we have no idea really. I don't think what's happening now next. But what do we want to see? What do we want to see, Rosemary? What do you want to see next?
Well, if they cancel that Mandalorian movie with Bo-Katan, finishing off her arc, I'm going to be pissed. I mean, because that I felt I know people had mixed feelings about the third season of The Mandalorian. I loved it because of her. She was awesome. Such a standout. Bringing her to life. Oh, kisses, right? So I once she has gotten all the Mandalorian factions together and now is trying to restore the homeworld and take out all the people who are getting in the way, I want to see that. So hopefully they can bring that to life, and in the process bring the other supporting characters that have been part of the arc, the rebels, the Bad Batch folks, if they're part of the universe. I'm not sure. I didn't watch that cartoon, but if they are, but all those connected pieces, to bring them all in, that would be interesting. And I think it would be adequate to do it in a standalone movie. I think to drag it out, to me, it would be dragging it out if they, pivoted and said, oh, well, just make this a series or something. But please, help us fans out, just give us that one thing to look forward to and that big payoff since you announced it. Don't cancel that.
Tyra, what do you want to see next?
Well, I agree. I'm totally 100% behind Bo-Katan and seeing the rest of her story and the rest of the Mandalorian story, the rest of Din Djarin's, and seeing where it goes. He's out in the Outer Rim, which is where Thrawn is going to be appearing, I think, if I'm correct, that he'll be popping in out there. He's out there. The Mandalorian home planet is out there. Mandalore is out there. So they have to be a part of that conflict that is coming. And I am looking forward to that conflict, because Mandalorians, when they bound together, are amazing. It only happens for like 5 good seconds before they have a fight, but you know,
True.
but it
True.
is. This is the way. But I think her thing is stronger together. That we are stronger together. And so I can't wait to see that. And can you imagine Bo-Katan, the Armorer, Hera, and Ahsoka all fighting together with Sabine there? I mean, oh my gosh, let's just have a girl power party. I mean, it's
Thank you.
Don't leave
epic.
Fennec Shen out of that.
It's going to be epic.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know what we're going to get.
Mike, what do you want to see?
I would love to see, you know, a combination of all the seeds that they've laid from Book of Boba Fett, from Mandalorian, from Ahsoka, from Clone Wars, hell, even Bad Batch. You know, I would love to see everything come together. And, you know, and what happens to all these characters before, you know, the 7th movie? You know, where did they all go? What happened? You know, what happens to Thawne? What happens to, you know, the remnants of the Empire? I want to see, you know, Snoke pop up, you know, because, you know, where does he come from? You know,
that's true.
You have all this different stuff still to come, and there's so many building blocks, and hopefully, and I emphasize on hopefully, we'll get some answers. And I love the thought of something like that happening in a movie or a series of films. Or, you know, would I want to see an Ahsoka season 2? Hell yes. You know, I wouldn't say no to that before we get that. And, you know, when are we going to get Andor season 2? When are we going to get, you know, all this other stuff that's still to come? So
yeah, so many things up in the air, and yeah, I mean, I think we are supposed to get at least one more season of Andor.
And it's already filmed, I think.
It is.
Yeah. And so, you know, I don't know what the plan is. And it's like I said, it seems like to be changing every month. I see announcement and I see something canceled, and then I see another announcement, and then this person, you know, whatever. And Disney says one thing and Lucasfilm says another thing, and it's just crazy. So, but this has, you know, despite the fact that this series was, you know, didn't live up to all my expectations, that would have been really tough to do because I had some high ones. I trust Dave Filoni. I think Dave Filoni has done more for Star Wars than anybody else. Yeah. And I think he understands Star Wars, and he's got some interesting things to stories to tell. And he's created some interesting characters, and I want to give him the keys to at least finish and tell that story. So whatever that turns out to be, whether it's another episode of Mandalorian, whether it's an episode of Ahsoka, whether it's whatever he wants to do, going forward to finish this, to tell this story, continue to tell this story, and eventually finish it, of course, leading up to Force Awakens, I'm on board. So that is what I want to see. So, but we want to know what you want to see, and if you guys liked Ahsoka, if you didn't like Ahsoka, or what you want to see from Star Wars next, because we're waiting, and when it happens, we'll cover it here. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and close out the show.
Okay, YouTube folks, this is your bonus time, and it's going to be an interesting one tonight. You know, would you guys want to see, you know, them recast, you know, the Jedi, the Dark Jedi role in a second season or a movie to find out what he was searching for, you know, since Ray Stevens passed away? And, you know, it's real sad, you know, what happened, because I think there was a lot for his character, and I think they had a lot of plans for him. So, or are they just going to go, okay, we're not going to touch that storyline? What are your thoughts?
Seems like it was too important to drop. So I would say that they're going to have to recast. I certainly don't want to see a CG Ray Stevenson. And so they can, we know, we get it. We know, we understand, but it's going to be tough finding someone of that caliber to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Go ahead, Rosemary.
I was going to say I wholeheartedly agree that I would say out of the series, what I really wanted to find out more about was where was he going? What was he looking for? What's his end game? That's the thing that left me hanging at that, and left everybody hanging, but where I left the show going, dang, what's going to happen with that guy? So I think they have to recast him, given all the challenges with the SAG-AFTRA strike and their negotiations. I think certainly AI is a sticking point, but probably the whole CGI return, making actors come back to life who are gone in movies and stuff without proper permission or anything for any reason at all. I think they definitely would not want to touch that, given that it's such a sore point. So they definitely have to recast it, and I hope they would just choose a really good person.
Yeah, it's like Albert Dumbledore. They had to recast him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
I think it's going to be the same thing here. They're going to have to recast him, because I think I agree with you. That was like the great shrouded mystery that we didn't really even get a lift underneath the veil to truly understand. So I'm all for recasting, and good luck, because that's going to be a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to do, but in faith, maybe they'll have something. They'll show him like somebody who looks like him from behind, and he gets hit when he goes into a cave with some kind of force thing, and his body changes or something like that. I'm just trying to figure something like that.
I mean,
sure.
It's going to be the
Star
face.
Wars.
They just got to find the right man who can grow that epic of a beard.
There you go.
We got to have that hand. I mean,
Mike Gordon, look, that's what we need to
do. Dave, call me. Call me.
He works cheap, Dave. Trust me, I know.
For Dave Feloni, all of us probably would.
Yes. Very much so.
At least for the first season.
Just give me a percent of the profits. That's all I want.
After that, he'll need his own trailer. He'll need his own,
But it's also kind of
every day, that type of thing.
It's also kind of one of those things too, because there's been a lot of speculation that if they're going to continue to tell the story of Thrawn, if Thrawn's going to attack the New Republic, if he's coming back, then it makes sense that he's not just going to face Ezra and Hera, and he's got to face the big guns. So you got to bring out Leia, you've got to bring out Han, you've got to bring out, there's a lot of questions about Luke and all that sort of thing, and what happened with them throughout the course of everything. So it's like, do you recast all of those characters? Do you recast Luke? Do you recast Leia? I mean, do we want to see that? And what does, it's already happened to some degree, but we've seen CG versions of them too, AI versions of them, if you will. And while that was pretty amazing at times, I think it would get real old real quick.
Correct.
On a basis, like on a series. So, but I don't know if anybody wants a Star Wars series like that.
They've talked about, possibly having Carrie Fisher's daughter replacing her as Leia. And, they look similar enough that I think it could pass.
Yeah, and there is a gentleman who looks amazingly like Luke, who helped with the CGI stuff, who without it looks like him.
Mm-hmm. But then again, Han Solo, I don't know. No. I don't want to see another younger version of, Indiana Jones popping up again in this one.
I didn't mind that so much, but Harrison and Han Solo are just He was my first crush, guys. That was my first crush. Was Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Nobody could do that.
Mm-mm. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to even think about. At least with this, with they showed where in the timeline this storyline took place. Because they were wondering, and then they talked about, I think in one of the last episodes of Ahsoka, they talked about the rebellion at the end of Mandalore. And
right.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's true. You're right. They
yeah,
did do
they
that.
have made it clear, not crystal clear, but anything Feloni and Favreau have done are kind of moving along one timeline.
Mm-hmm.
The other series like Obi-Wan and Andor are popping in and telling various stories other time periods, but the Filoni Favreau verse or whatever is going along, and that seems to be pretty linear so far.
Well, they're saying that Andor is supposed to end the second season right literally almost at the beginning of Rogue One.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
So,
and that would make sense.
Yeah. Because they've said in the second season, a couple of years have already gone by between the first and second seasons, which totally makes sense. And, and I like it that way. I think it works a lot better that way too. So I think there's a lot of good coming out of this. And like you said, Mike, they're filling in the blank spots. And you know what? You also don't need to have, a minute by minute recap of what happened in that universe, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's okay. So,
Tyra, but the other thing that Filoni has done too is by filling in those gaps, he's kind of made the prequels better. Like there's not as painful to rewatch them because you're like, oh, this leads up to, I know those guys because, so it actually some of that stuff feels enhanced because of the work that Filoni's done. And
Clone Wars has, basically helped, the prequels actually become stomachable and to watch and everything in a lot of ways, because that does fill in a lot of the blanks, and it also explains the characters and fleshes them out a lot more, and actually even makes Anakin somewhat explainable type thing.
I think the big thing that Clone Wars has done is helped Anakin, and helped by also helping Hayden, because after the prequels came out, Hayden was not well regarded at all. And I think because of the work that Filoni and them did with Clone Wars, people started to like the character more, and then therefore they liked Hayden more. And now that Hayden's returned in this and also with Obi-Wan and et cetera, the work that he's done there, I think, I mean, it's really, we realize he's not a bad guy. And so now we feel all bad that how he's treated before. And now we're happy that he's finally getting celebrated for playing this character that, that we now like.
And I think it helped his acting in that role better too, to have those blanks filled out, as you mentioned, so that he could give more substance and nuance to the character, as opposed to when he played it when he was younger. He was just starting out, and it was a lot of one note acting there. And this time, especially with that episode with them and the world in between worlds episode, I mean, he had to play Anakin in like different stages of his life with Ahsoka, and you could see that nuance this time. You could see where he was kind of older, staid Anakin, and then you could see where he was younger, more arrogant Anakin, but more of a leader, and more of that master to Ahsoka. So by the end of the episode, when she's saying, he was a good master, at that point you could buy it. You could buy it. I bought it at that point.
The series that they did that had hers and Dooku's history.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of it, but that really, when she's learning when he keeps pushing her to fight and to fight harder and to fight off the clones, it was almost like there was a part of him that was preparing her for what somewhere inside of the darkness of him knew was coming. He was always a good master. He always looked after her. Even when he turned, he looked after her.
Interesting. I wonder what would have happened. Would he have tried to convert her to the dark side if, she was still in the Jedis?
Yeah. Well, and then I think what hurt her and what she questioned was, would he have even turned if she had been there?
Yeah. Yeah, if she had been there for him.
Yeah, because she was sometimes the voice of reason for him.
It's a good question.
She certainly wouldn't have stood around and watched him slaughter younglings, that's for sure.
No.
Oh, well.
She would have caught
There's
after
that.
No.
Nope, she would have been on him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like, Master, what are you thinking?
Why don't we just take, your wife to the doctor?
Why
don't we just do that? Simply cured. We all know. Can we just admit it?
No, it's interesting. It is really interesting what that could have been. Good. It would have been great if they did a Star Wars What If type series.
Oh,
like
wow. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Yeah, like Marvel's going to let Star Wars have it, but unless they just
hey, they're all owned by the same company.
That doesn't mean anything sometimes.
I might like it better.
Wow. Okay, folks.
Sorry.
There you go.
Some of them were so depressing. But anyway, back to Star Wars.
I think we're going to wrap up the episode now.
Oh.
So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Rosemary, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Anything you want to promote or shout out about?
Sure. Thank you again for bringing me back and having me talk about Ahsoka, because it was a lot of fun. I do want to shout out that if you are in the Decatur, Georgia area on October 29th, they're having their annual, I think it's the Haints and Saints Halloween parade in downtown Decatur from 6 to 9 p.m. or afternoon-ish. But if you just look that up, Halloween parade in Decatur, Georgia, if you're in the area, come on down. I think it would be a wonderful cosplay opportunity.
Very much so. And it's not hard to get to Decatur if you're anywhere in the Atlanta area. You just have to sit in traffic on 285, but that's a whole different story.
Exactly. Or Marta. Exactly.
Or Marta. Marta's
exactly.
Marta actually goes somewhere, folks. It goes to Decatur.
Right in downtown.
It's awesome. And Tyra, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to have been on here with Rosemary and found another lady who loves Bo-Katan.
That's awesome.
That was wonderful. We have totally bonded over that. I am doing a podcast called Building Bold Connections with Coles College, where I teach at Kennesaw State, and it's still getting ready to launch our second season. And I run a Twitch stream now, who knew, for the digital media track over on our Twitch thingy, whatever we call it. But anyway, I'm talking to a Twitch stream. I've become a host. I don't know how that happened, but
you fell
congratulations.
It happens.
I did.
I
literally fell into it.
I've been wondering for like 13 years. I have no idea how it happens. So you just fall into it.
It's true. But I love being here with Mike and Michael so much. So thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure. Anything
you want to shout out about, sir?
Yeah, people wanting something to watch this spooky season. If they have not yet checked out on Netflix, The Fall of the House of Usher, I recommend them do so. It is an amazing series. It is spooky. It is quite mature audience, that's for sure. But the acting in it is amazing. It is sort of related in a related note to Star Wars fans. Mark Hamill is really amazing in it. Bruce Greenwood is also in it. Carla Gugino is in it. There's so many great actors in it that all the performances are amazing. If you are an Edgar Allan Poe fan, which I am, every episode, every scene will have something in it for you to just sort of find really amazing, and a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of like not so subtle references. It is a fun series, and I finished watching it this weekend. It's 8 episodes. And it's by the guy who did Haunting at Hill House and Haunting at Blythe Manor, I think. And another, I haven't seen those series, but based on watching this one, I'm eager to tune into those at some point, because this was really, really well done.
Sounds awesome, man. Definitely sounds awesome. My shout out real quick. Want to go give a huge shout out to original co-host of the podcast, Dan Wren. We, haven't talked about him in quite some time. And last time we talked about him, we announced that he was going to be a daddy. And that was a year ago. And his little girl, Sylvie, how's that for a name, is now official 1 year old. Which is, as of today, pretty darn amazing that my nephew is going to has a 1 year old. And it's awesome. And I love teasing my little sister that she's a grandma. So it's pretty cool. And that just shows what our ages are on this podcast. So that makes it even more fun. So, it's kind of cool. And right now, with everything going on in the world, folks, you got to look at the little things and, just enjoy what you can get and smile about the good things, because there's a lot of crap going in, as we talked about last week on the show. So just smile and, applaud the good things, applaud the great stuff, and, enjoy what you have. Enjoy that, we had a really good Pride Parade here in Atlanta over the weekend. Applaud that, Halloween is right around the corner. Everyone's getting all spooky and scary and such, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And we're going to be back to doing scary and spooky stuff next week on the podcast, which is even more fun. So, just got to look at the little things in life with that. And you know what? It's pretty darn awesome, because, we get great people on the podcast like this, and we get to talk to people about fun stuff like this. When else can you do this? This is how you get your geek on, as we like to say on the show. It's pretty darn awesome. As always, thanks for listening to the podcast. Always remember, we couldn't do this without you. If you want to support the podcast, please check out our Tee-Public store and get some really cool ESO Network swag. Also remember, if you want to listen to their show before the rest of the world, why not join the ESO Network Patreon? For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us here at Earth Station One. Check us out at patreon.com/ESO Network and keep a watch on that, because a lot of the levels are going to be changing very, very soon. We got some ideas going on, and you guys will be the first to hear about it. We want to hear from you, so please write us anytime at feedback@earthstation1.com. Remember, you could also find Earth Station One wherever fine podcasts are found. And now Earth Station One can also be found in video format on YouTube. And as a little extra bonus for watching us up on video, you can have bonus material. This episode, we got to talk about more Ahsoka stuff, which you guys at home who are listening to us didn't get to hear. So that's why you got to watch us on video, folks. And as we always like to say, you know what? Like and subscribe. It's the best way to find us. It's the way to know new shows are available. If you're listening to us on audio, or if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the little subscribe button and give us a little thumbs up. Always helps. All right, folks, on behalf of myself, Mr. Mike, and of course, Mr. Gordon, and of course, Tyra, and of course, Rosemary, thank you so much for listening to us tonight, folks. We will see you here next time on Earth Station One. Hug your loved ones, folks. That's what you got to do now. And, be thankful for what you got. And we will see you here next time on Earth Station One. Peace, and we are done.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.